Hey, hello, Mac.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Can you hear me just fine?
I can hear you great.
Great.
Doing very well.
Well, might be just you and me tonight. We shall see. Thanks for joining me today.
No problems. I'm very excited about. I've been kind of paying attention to this for a little bit. I work for Pediments,
Yep.
and
Okay.
one of our developers took one of your courses. I think back in 21 or 22.
Yep. Jody.
Jody, yeah, and she's been doing some amazing stuff with data tables and everything. So I'm like, oh yeah, I need to get a little bit better with this.
Yeah, and I haven't. I tried to. I reached out to her and I haven't gotten heard back. But yeah, it was fun to work with her on that, and then yeah, I don't know I don't know how she's exactly doing things there, but with her data tables work, I know that. Um, so the reason I'm saying that is because the environment that I have here that I want to share about is a certain way to work in JavaScript, and that's what our goal is tonight. And when we get started here, is to get your computer set up for it. So yeah, so let's just get started here.
Okay.
If others show up, we can go nice and quick. Um, so we'll welcome. Today we're going to take a look at working with the JavaScript development. Or we're going to work. Today we're going to take a look at how to set up your computer to be ready to use JavaScript in FileMaker. And and feel free to ask any questions either in the chat or in the just interrupt me and we can talk. But our my goal is today is to help you be ready to work with JavaScript in for FileMaker to solve problems in the most efficient way possible. I definitely have a stance around how to work with JavaScript in FileMaker, and I I want to share that with other people because I've gone through all of the struggles of working with JavaScript, and I want to be able to bring that up. Bring it. I want to be able to make it most efficient for you as we go through. So we're going to go through all of the tool set. I call it a modern tool set. Um, we're going to go through all of that to let you know the process for getting your computer ready to use JavaScript. We do have to set up some tools, some apps and stuff. But once we have that, we're good to go. We're also going to review the JavaScript development environment that I have set up for FileMaker developers, and we're also going to make some suggestions for next steps. So, Mac? Have you done any JavaScript at all?
I have. I actually have. I'm also a web developer, and so
Okay.
I feel fairly comfortable with JavaScript as as a tool. But as a FileMaker developer, I will admit that I've used some JavaScript for different things related to FileMaker, but that's what really excited me about this. Is like I've never really come up with kind of a good framework or I guess protocol for what's the best way to use JavaScript with
Yeah.
FileMaker and be the most because I'm used to just basically writing it, uploading it to my test server, and then publishing kind of to
Hmm.
my web server.
Yeah.
So it's a little different environment, obviously, with FileMaker. And so I need more insight into what's a good methodology for working with JavaScript in FileMaker.
And yeah, okay. So because you're a web developer, you probably have a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about. I'm going to still go through it because I am recording this and I want people to hear it. But
Mm-hmm.
we will be able to, you won't have to install everything because we're going to talk about it. But yeah, we'll get to the part where it my rendition of how to work with JavaScript. So the modern tool set that I talk about involves these items here. A service called Node.js, something called Git, GitHub, which is a site, VS Code, which is an app, FileMaker, of course, and the JavaScript development environment. All of these tools are there for a FileMaker developer to set up on their machine and use for their work in making widgets for FileMaker for their apps. We install these apps or services, whatever the case may be. We sign up for accounts, and then we use them to code efficiently. There is some definite setup at the beginning. The overhead at the beginning is kind of, there's a lot of overhead to take care of. But once we have that set up and taken care of, we're good to go. So these items are what we're going to go through. And I want to talk about this. I assume, Mac, you have Node.js and you work with Code Editor, right, all the time, right? Okay, so let me actually just show you, before we move on, let me just show you what we're dealing with here. So this right here is what I call the JavaScript development environment. I have the app VS Code, my code editor on one side. I have FileMaker on the other side. These two, when they are, when in this environment setting, are connected to each other. I have what we call a development server running right here at localhost 1234, and this web viewer is listening to that URL, and it is rendering whatever is being served to that URL. And in the environment that I have, the JS Dev environment, it's set up with certain apps and packages and libraries so that it can exactly do what that is. It can take all my code that I'm writing and serve it over to FileMaker. So that when as a FileMaker developer, I want to work on a widget here, I've got this on the right there in FileMaker. I've got two charts going with just some fake data. And I can sit over here in VS Code and make a change. Let's say the type is bar, but I want it to be a line chart. Doesn't quite make sense with the data, but I could go over to there and reload it over here in FileMaker. And FileMaker, the web viewer, is picking up the changes that I am making over here in VS Code. So this is this is pretty much the sum of the environment. It allows me, I have three keywords in this. I call it develop, render, and deploy. We can develop in VS Code, get all of our JavaScript right. We can render it over here. And then when we're done, we run a little command over here in VS Code, npm run deploy to FM, and it takes all my code, and you can't see that, but it then uploads that to a FileMaker field where all of the HTML is stored.
Ooh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I don't have to rely on a substitution method. Back when I first started this, that's what I did because that's all we had. We couldn't do what these modern tools allow us. Even though there was probably Node.js back in 2017, we couldn't use it. But this method allows me to use Node.js and the other services to connect these two together. The environment that I have set up allows me to do this. And if the client says, that's okay, but I really, just for sake of clarity, I want two donut charts there. I can come back over here to VS Code and change the line to the word donut, which I got to make sure I spell right because it's always different. Donut. Yeah, it's GH. Okay. So I can come in here and change the word line to donut, rerun that command in the terminal. It updates over here in FileMaker, and then when a person comes to it, now they see the updates that I've made. All right?
Very nice.
Yeah, so this is what I am using to make all my widgets. My business runs on this idea that I can build a widget for somebody, deploy it to their file, and really it's just a matter of coming into the development environment, going to a particular JS file and updating the name of the file that this will be deployed to. We have to upload put some scripts into a client file and so forth, but it's really just pointing to a certain file. Hey, Jonathan, welcome. Good to see you. Oh, no worries. We just gotten started here. So this is the JavaScript development environment, I call it, and this is again how I make all of my widgets. I don't use the substitution method anymore. I rely on this environment, all the modern tools that I'm using to take all my code, package it up into the minimized form, and let it sit in one file. I don't do substitution where I have a bunch of fields that are substituted, the value is substituted in via calculation. I used to do that, don't do that anymore. All of this code to run this chart is right in here. All right. Anybody have any questions about that? We'll get into details in a bit, but I just wanted to show you kind of the overview of what we're doing. Okay. So for you, Jonathan, we're talking about the JavaScript. We're talking about the modern tool set that FileMaker developers can use to create widgets as efficiently as possible. And there's quite a few here. At least one of them you're familiar with. You may be familiar with the others. But the goal is to use these together to some under the hood on your machine, some of them you're working in, to as efficiently as possible write a widget for FileMaker. So let's go through each tool and just talk through them a little bit, give you a brief understanding of them. Node.js is an application that we install on our machine. I don't know the full extent of it because we're just using a bare bit of it, but it's a service we install on our machine, and we'll do that in a minute if you'd like. But this allows me to do what I was just showing, where in VS Code I can run a little command and it will build up my my code, and it will start up a development server and make that available to FileMaker, the web viewer, to read. So Node.js is that. It also allows me to install libraries, JavaScript libraries that help me render charts or show data tables or do complex calculations. Node.js will help me install those. I don't have to go to the internet and find them and download them. I can run a command in the terminal inside of this folder structure, and Node.js will install that. Node.js also bundles our code to fit inside of the web viewer. So this is, or inside of a field that goes into a web viewer. So this is the result of Node.js working alongside a part of the development environment to bundle up my code, make it as small as possible, and stick it into a text field. So that's Node.js, at the very brief introduction to it. Like I said, we just use a little bit of it. We're not going crazy with this. It can do a lot more. We don't do a whole lot with it. Git is another service that we install on our machines. This keeps track of all the changes that we are making in our code once we have initialized a repository for the tracking of changes. So you can see here in this image, I've got two versions of the same index.html file. One has some red on it, one has some green. This is just highlighting the changes that I'm making in each file. So it keeps track of all these changes, and it allows us to, if we make a lot of errors, we can roll back and we can undo a bunch of changes. It's a version tracking system for us. We use it quite a bit here. I don't actually, in the JavaScript training course and in the work that I do, I don't have lots of, you can get complex with Git. You can do branches and have multiple people working on things. I don't focus on that. I just do some bare basics with using Git. So there's that. We also have GitHub. GitHub is a account that we create a service website that we create an account where we can store all of our repositories, our widgets, the code bases of our widgets. This you can see there. I have 299 repositories, um, just of things that I'm testing, playing with, maybe some client files, client widgets, and so forth. But this is definitely part of the tool set that we would use to do our work. And again, Jonathan, if you have any questions, just interrupt me and I'll be glad to talk with you.
Sure. Well, one question on the GitHub. Is that public?
So you can make it, you can make each individual repository or set of files public or private, so that it's, it can be hidden or not. But yes, a lot of mine are public because they're made available to FileMaker developers.
So, just so I understand correctly, and I apologize if this is
Hmm.
rudimentary, but so essentially, the purpose of there is either to make it public just out of the goodness of your heart, or keep it private, and it's just kind of serving as like free storage for you.
Yeah, it's a storage place so that you have a backup in case your computer crashes. It's also a good place to. We don't get into it, and we won't get into it here. But you could actually take your code and deploy it to a web server from GitHub. It sort of becomes a launching pad for hosting to sending to a host. Um, my websites all are on GitHub, and whenever I make changes, they automatically get deployed to those places. So it's just like the industry standard for storing code. And VS Code and Git and GitHub work so well together because they're all by Microsoft, or they're VS Code is created by Microsoft, and I think they bought GitHub as well a long time ago. So yeah, it's a good place, and all of the people that I work with have GitHub accounts, and as they create repositories, they can make them public or private. If you're working in a team, I'm sure that a team Mac like you might have a corporate GitHub account. You could attach any repositories, any widgets you make to that corporate account as well. Yeah. Again, we don't do a whole lot with it. It's not so critical, but it is a good place to store. And as you get familiar with it and start working with this environment, you can go to my GitHub and just look at all my look at all my stuff and see what I have, because most of it's public for people. All right. And VS Code is another tool that we install. I use every day. It's always open as I create widgets. This is the place that we, as a FileMaker developer, will write our JavaScript. Never again should we write it in a FileMaker text field, because it's just not designed for that. VS Code has so many features that help us to write efficiently. You can see there's some color coding, there's some auto indentation, there's type ahead. There's so much available to us in VS Code. None of it is too scary. It's just, as we start to use it, we'll get more and more familiar with it, and it'll become more and more reliable. When I write in VS Code, I'm using their AI, GitHub Copilot, to help me actually finish functions and come up with all the calculations that I need. So this is vital to the work that we will do. Never again should a FileMaker developer be writing JavaScript in the text field. It takes too much time, and we don't get any of the helpful hints that we get in VS Code. All right. And of course, FileMaker, since FileMaker 19.3, all of the barriers that we have dealt with previously have been removed when it comes to working with JavaScript in FileMaker. FileMaker 19 introduced this idea of, whenever we load a web viewer it will inject a JavaScript library into the web viewer, into our code, so that we can use a function in that library to call back to FileMaker and run a script from there. So FileMaker is helping us to bridge the gap between the web viewer and FileMaker itself. And FileMaker 19 right above me, perform JavaScript in a web viewer, that line 19 of that script. Hopefully you can see it's not too blurry or anything. It was part of 19 that allows us to cause a function inside of the JavaScript to run. Mac, are you using these at all? I know you don't do a whole lot of JavaScript stuff, but in FileMaker, but have you played with these, this script step?
I'll be honest, no, not the perform JavaScript in a web viewer. I've got to say, I'm still stuck in the dark ages of editing in text fields and then reloading my web viewer when it's at build. So yeah, I'm intrigued by that. That's one of those kind of the since 19, so many features have come kind of fast that I don't think I've ever touched that one.
Great. Well, we'll get you on it. The environment, if you didn't catch that, I wasn't clear. We'll look at my environment later, but it comes with a jsdev.fmp12 file that has all of the scripts and the script steps that you need to plug into a client file and start using. So we just have so many functions here. We have so many tools available to us to use as a FileMaker developer. So it's worth taking some time, and that's what I'd like to do with you now. If you'd like, you don't have to follow, you don't have to do it here. I do have documentation to do it later, but I want to walk through the installation of all of this stuff because as I've trained people to do this, we've run into a few roadblocks and bumps on the way. So if you're up for it, follow along and we'll do some installations. And then I can, if there's something that goes wrong, I can let you share your screen and we can figure it out. So the installation steps these are pretty much one-time thing. We're going to install Node.js, we're going to install Git, we're going to install VS Code, and we're going to create an account on GitHub. So that'll be the things, and then the account on GitHub, we also will have to connect your VS Code instance to GitHub so that they will talk to each other. So that when I'm done with my code and I'm ready to push it to GitHub, I can do that through VS Code. So let's do that. Mac, you may already have all this on your machine, right?
I do have, the only thing I use GitHub. I have my GitHub account. I don't really use Git that much. So that's one I probably will definitely need.
Well, let's do that. So the first thing we should do, actually, just to be sure, let's do this. So one of the first things you should do is just go into your terminal, and we want to just check and see if you already have these apps on your machine. So you want to type in, and again, do this if you want. I'll just keep going unless I hear you say slow down. But I need to stop it here. There we go. So this is what we want to check and see if we have Node. I have Node 18.13 and I have Git 2.3.8.1. Those work just fine for me. You may have a more.
Node 19.3, is that going to be a problem?
Nope, that'll be fine.
Okay. And 2.31.1 for Git, I do have it installed.
That shouldn't be a problem. Jonathan, how about you? Have you done any work with?
My Git is coming up as 2.39.2.
That should be fine. That should be fine.
Okay, and then I downloaded the ES code, but I did get some kind of message saying it wasn't like most current or something, but
Okay.
I'll wait till we get that.
Good. So you both have this stuff, and I am streaming this on YouTube. I haven't seen anybody mention anything, so I'm just going to go on. But yeah, these are one-time things. This is all you have to do. You just install Git. I'm having to go through a process here where I first install Homebrew on my machine because it's a Mac, and which is a pain in the butt to install that because it takes some time. And after that gets installed, then I can go back to, yeah, this is just, there we go, just doing it again. Once I have that installed, then I can go back and I can install Git, which would be that brew install Git command that's in the there, and type it into the terminal. So that's what I have to do. And again, this is where people would have problems with their install. Sometimes this freezes or they don't have enough access privileges, what the case may be. But you're all good. So we will move on here. We definitely need Mac, or we definitely need Visual Studio Code. Are you both on Macs? Mac and
I am, and I have Visual Studio Code installed.
great. Jonathan, how about you?
Also my
Yeah.
normal text editor.
Great. Okay. Do you use?
I just downloaded the new package, installed that.
Okay.
So I do not. I mean, I did not prior or say 5 minutes ago. Didn't have the Visual Studio Code in, so I was not familiar with it.
Okay. Well, you will get familiar with it as we go and have a chance to play with some stuff here. And it will take some time. You know, VS Code is, like I said, is a hefty application. I don't know probably half of what I could know, but I use it every day and it works just fine for me. So if you're on YouTube, say hi and follow along with me here. I'm talking with some folks that are with me on the Zoom, but you're welcome to put a comment in if you're on YouTube and ask for some help. So we've installed Node.js. We should have installed Git, which takes a little while to do, and then we would install VS Code. Okay. I'm not sure that I have this. Oh yeah, I do. So we also need to create an account in GitHub. If you don't have one, then it's a good time to do that. With GitHub, you create an account with your personal or work email. You have to remember that and your password, because the first time you try to use Git inside of VS Code, it's going to ask you for your username and password. So it will connect your version of VS Code with your GitHub account. So go ahead and do that if you haven't. Let me know when that's done, and we will give it a try.
I'm logged into my GitHub account.
Great. Jonathan, how you doing? Working on it?
Setting up password.
I have so many repositories. Hello, if you're on YouTube, say hi. Throw a comment in there so I can see you and let me know who's here. If you'd rather have the link to the YouTube, I can get you that. You can join us there. I guess I should have put some limits on this. How you doing, man? Doing all right? All right, great. So we'll come back to that. You most most of the time will not even need to go to this page unless your computer crashes and you need to re-download everything, because you'll be working with GitHub or with VS Code and GitHub through VS Code. So you don't have to, but everything that you do in there in VS Code, you can push up here and it will automatically be added to up here. All right, good. So that is that. Let's see what's next. So those are really, that's all we need to really do to get set up. And this was very smooth with you two. That's great. So now we can move on to the idea of looking at the JavaScript development environment, because this is how I do all my coding. This is what I would recommend for every FileMaker developer who wants to be efficient with their development. And honestly, this is the best way to learn JavaScript as well, because you're using VS Code, you're using FileMaker to help you learn it, and you might as well see the results of your JavaScript learning inside of FileMaker, since that's what you know. So this is a good playground to use. So let's take a look at it. The development environment allows you to create widgets. You saw one at the beginning there, my charts one. And here's the basic process. We start to create a widget by typing in an npx command inside of a terminal. I'll demonstrate that in a bit. But you get to use, again, another modern tool, a command line application that I wrote that takes everything that I've put together in this environment and brings it down to your machine. Once you have it on your machine, again, I'll show you that in a minute, you will start up the dev server, you can install JavaScript libraries, and you can just play around with the JavaScript. So this, within 5 minutes, we will be set up with working with that. So let's take a look at what that entails. First thing I'm going to do is create a widget. First thing I'll do to do that is I'll change directory into a folder that I want it to be in. This will bring this will create a folder inside of that. Let me stop this for a sec. By navigating to a certain directory, I call it JS work. That's where the entire folder of this widget will go, all of the files. Then I type this command inside of that directory right there. There we go. npx at integrating-magic/create JS and FM widget. This is a command line that will do all the hard work for you of creating, of downloading everything that I have and putting it onto your machine. Not everything, like the template that I start with. So here's what it'll do. It'll run through some commands. It'll ask you, what do you want to call it? You walk through the steps there. Here, you get to choose a widget type. As we get started, most of the time you're just going to choose the JS version of this. I do have a React version of a template, as well as a data table starter file and a Apex starter file as well. The Apex charts, which is like the charts that I was doing. So you choose which one you want, and then you give it the name of the client file, the target file that this will go in. It's easy to just start with the default JS dev and then switch it to something else later once you're ready to deploy. I'll just leave it at JS dev. And then I want to install and initialize the repository. That'll just get it all set. So it's downloading my environment. Great, so I've created a widget. It took that long to download it onto your machine. If you were to go into this folder, the directory that you wanted to put this in, you would see this new folder. In my case, my new widget. We'll do this together in just a moment, so I'm going fast here. So now I'm going to change directory, go into that folder, and because I'm using VS Code, I'm going to run the command code period, and it will open it up in VS Code. So there's my new widget right there. All of the files that I have in the templates are now downloaded onto your machine. And yeah, so that is pretty much the entirety of this process. You've got a FileMaker file there. It's a little bit hard to see. Sorry about that. JSDev, FMB12, and we've got a bunch of other files. Here's where we're going to do our first commit to say, all right, all of these changes have been initialized. Now I want to commit them as the starting point. So let's do this together now and just walk through this. All right. We're going to start with changing directory into any folder that you want this to go into. I just have something called JS Work that I use. If I'm building something for a client, I will I will put the widget into their client file folder. But go ahead and change directory into something that you want to put it in. And then you want to run this command. I'll have it up here so that you can see it. It is also, I'm going to send you my documentation. I should have done this at the beginning. Through the chat, guys, I will. There we go. So there's the documentation. Yep, you can write that second line now once you're inside of that directory. No. I'll put the command in the chat as well here. Oh, Mac, you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
All right. So once you do that, you just want to walk through the steps here, the prompts. Just give it a widget name, like chart or my first JavaScript. You can't have any spaces or capital letters. It needs to all be lowercase. I usually just put dashes. I think the common thing is to put dashes in between words. You don't need it. You don't need a description. Yeah, I just kind of threw that in there. Like, how do you want to describe this thing? Yep, JS. You can explore the other ones, especially the data tables and the Apex charts, because those will get you pretty far. It has everything installed and ready for you, and even some data for you to start playing with. The name of the target file, just leave it as JSDev. That will be the file that this eventually will be deployed into. And then you want to say yes to install and initialize. It's pretty common that you would say that. All right. Are you here? Great. So this is just a summary page that tells you what you can do. If this code period may not work, I can't remember how I got that to work. There's some sort of something that we have to put in. We'll see if it doesn't work. There we can just go about it a different way. It's not a problem. Um, um, just let that be for right now. What is my version of npm? Yeah, we should. So Node installs npm. That's weird that you. I don't know what's happening there. Let me see if I get that. Okay. So if you can't open it up in VS Code using this command, then you simply would go to VS Code and you basically can drag the entire folder icon from the Finder window into VS Code, the opening dashboard of VS Code, and it will just open up the entire file. And you should be set with something like with this. Try space dot. Okay. If it doesn't work, just drag the entirety of the folder from your Finder into the VS Code app or on top of the VS Code icon down at the bottom in your dock, and it will open it up. All right.
I actually had a similar problem when I first installed VS Code and tried to integrate it with that command. It's like there's a pairing that's not happening. I actually didn't get it to work till after I restarted my Mac, and it's like after that reboot, it kind of linked those together.
Okay,
That command.
that's good to know.
Yeah, since he just installed it brand new, that could be an issue.
Yep. All right. So you should be then able to see everything. Now, my Explorer, which is kind of right above me, is on the right side of my app. Yours is probably on the left. That's just a setting that I found and wanted to change. So if yours doesn't match perfectly, that's okay. But that Explorer window right above me shows everything that is in this file. And this is a chance for you to look around and see what's going on with it. But the thing that you will do with this, first thing we should do is make a commit. This commit it probably will prompt you the first time to enter your GitHub account name and password. But it will take all of the changes that are there in green, and you can see the little 15, and I think in your case too, there's a tab on the side. Yours is probably on the left that says 15. Those are that's the number of changes that have been made in these files, and they're all green, so they are all added brand new. So we want to hit that tab there. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down, and type a commit message in the box right above. And I just wrote first commit. Sorry, it's a little bit small and maybe blurry, but you would write something. I always write first commit, and then I hit the commit button. Yes, just say yes to that, because yes. Yeah, that's where you have to type your. Oh, maybe it's your email and your username. Maybe that's what it was. Do you want to? Just say. I'm looking this up because it's been a while. It's your GitHub name and it's your GitHub password, right? Or email. That's what it's saying, correct?
Email name. But I'm just trying to figure out where to enter that.
Oh, it would be in the terminal. So let's see here. I'm trying to find that. That. Do I have a picture of that? I don't think I do. I need to get a picture of that. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Oh, I see. It wants to do like git config global. I see. Okay.
You're figuring it out?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to buy a brand new computer just so I can set that up. Oh yeah, here it is. So let me throw an image up here. So this is what I think you have to type in. Yep. Mac, I assume your GitHub, your VS Code is connected to your GitHub, right?
Yeah, I've already committed.
Okay. So now you can, go through and play with it. Open up, well.
Yeah, I just opened up the FileMaker file, the JSDI file.
In VS Code, you would want to open up the terminal and type in npm start. So that starts up the dev server.
So I entered those lines with the information. It didn't. It didn't give me an error, but it didn't give me any confirmation. It just gave me another line essentially.
You should be fine. So now go back up to VS Code and do that commit thing.
Oh, okay.
And so it all went away, and now you can publish this branch. You basically are going to push it up to your GitHub account. There you yeah. So if you're at YouTube, hello, thank you. I'm talking with some folks in Zoom here, and we're getting their computers set up. If you haven't, if you'd like to get your computer set up, ping me, send me a comment. I'll be glad to work with you to get your machine set up. My goal is to spread the word of this all over the FileMaker community. It is.
Did you say it was npm start?
Yeah, npm start. Yep. All right, did it get published, Jonathan?
Actually, I don't know. You're being redirected to authorized application. But then when it sent me back to the I'm back here. How do I verify that it's actually done?
You could do this. You could go to, let me go here. You can go to your, so over here in VS Code, if you can you see my screen fine? You click on the, let's see, I gotta make sure it's a little bit wonky here. Let me fix this. Oh, come on. This is just ridiculous. One sec. So over here in my tabs, I'm gonna click on, you're on this source control tab. If you open up the remote tab, there should be a line here that says it's been connected to your account in this repository name, whatever it is.
So, I see. Publish. Okay, now let's go ahead.
Great.
Okay, so would you like to Visual Studio Code to periodically run git fetch?
You don't need to, because you're doing all your work here. If you were doing your work on multiple machines and pushing your finished code up to GitHub, you would want to sync each machine every time you went to it. But all I do with GitHub in these small widgets is I do work and then I push it up to GitHub so that it just stays safe.
Yeah, so now it opened up a web page with GitHub with menu widgets.
Great. Awesome. All right. So let's take a look now at, we've set up the widget nicely, and you would do this process every single time you want to create a widget. There are definite subtleties when it comes to using the same code base over and over, and it can be certainly done. If you want to create a chart for 10 of your clients, you could theoretically use the same code base and just configure it differently for each client, or you could create 10 brand new ones and repositories, each one for each of the clients. So there are a lot of subtleties that we're not going to get into now, but it can be done. And you can also, with this method, use more than one widget in the same FileMaker file. So you're not limited to just one. But what I want to do now is just start this process of working with this widget. So I'm going to walk through how to do that here in this screen here. So the first thing I'm going to do is do an npm start in my terminal. So my terminal is found in VS Code. There's a shortcut for it. It's the Control-tilde key to open up the terminal on the bottom. Once that is opened, you can type in the command npm start to start up the development server. It'll run a little command here, a little processing, and then it'll say server running at localhost 1234.
This is where I'm getting an error. I'm getting a missing script start, and I'm in the directory because I created a JS directory as well. I'm not exactly sure why it won't start.
Do you have your node modules folder in the repository?
No, probably not. Yeah.
Okay, so you must have clicked no to do that initialize and install. If you don't see the node modules, so every, again, we'll get into we can get into the details in a later thing, and my documentation shows this, but there is a inside of every widget set. Inside of every widget set, there is a. I just lost me. There is a.
I do have the node modules directory. I just confirmed that.
Okay, but when you type, let's try it again. I'm going to clear this out. Jonathan, did you get yours to start?
So you were in terminal. That's where you did that. I see. Okay.
And you hit Control-tilde, or there's a.
Control-tilde?
Yep. Or there's a new terminal command under the terminal menu.
Actually, I did that. It just says it brings up like show all commands, go to files, find in files.
For Control-tilde? Then go to here. Let's just do something quick because I need this to be bigger. I got to do something here. Screen share. Just make this really big. Okay. So in the terminal command, in the menu at the very top, in your menu bar, you should have a terminal command, a terminal menu. If you click on that, it'll say new terminal. But I'm literally Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
How do you get back to the terminal page that
The terminal page is it's the commands control tilde.
No, but right, but that since that didn't work, it kind of stuck me in a.
Why don't you share your screen quick, Jonathan? Or yeah. Okay. So click in the app, make sure it's active somewhere, like there. Yeah, press there, and then try the control tilde again. There you go.
Oh, that took me right back. Okay, yeah.
Now type in npm start. Okay, press enter. Okay. Can you scroll up a little bit in this terminal? The default interactive shell is now using sh. Okay, let me just check something because this might need to be a subtlety that I have to Oh, you see on your terminal, and this may Mac, this may be a problem for you. On your terminal in the top right, it says bash. Switch that. Click on that. Say we want to, or hit the plus button. Maybe the plus button is what we want. Yeah, ZHS. Use ZHS. Now try it there.
npm start.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured out my problem. I was one directory down. I was too far. I was one directory up in the terminal from where I should have been. Sorry about that.
Oh no, no worries.
The server is running now.
Great. Okay, so why is type in node dash version space dash version. Yeah, you're fine. Type in npm space dash version. Let me see what my version is. You said that there was a big change. npm. Oh no, we have this. Oh yeah. Oh no, wait. You have a one more than me, so I'm out of it. Click on that bash thing on the right side and see if you can right click on it and kill it or trash it or something. Try that. Now go back to your terminal line and try to do that start again. npm start. Oh, come on, what's going on? Yours is working, right, Jonathan? Or right, Mac?
Yeah, mine's working.
Okay. All right. Can you make this wider, Jonathan? And yeah, I'm trying to. No pre-build or local build of parcel dash watcher. I'm gonna do a search for that quick.
My cat gets upset when my mic is like,
Hey everyone who's on YouTube, thanks for joining me. I'm gonna jump off here and help a local person here on Zoom, but I appreciate you being part of this. Let me know. I'd be love to help you get started setting up JavaScript and FileMaker, getting your machines ready. Thanks for joining me.